Hi, I'm Steven. That's Lloyd. That's JJ. We are with Just Got Played, and we are gaming through mechanisms. So, what does that mean? Well, mechanisms are the way that you interact with a tabletop game. Card game, board game, whatever. We like to classify these things so we can talk about them in relation to each other. And you see a lot of these same concepts, used over and over in different games. Sometimes you get stuff that's brand new or new combinations. But today we're talking specifically about, it's actually really a pair of mechanisms that we threw together in the same video. So one is area control. And area control is the idea that there is some physical space that you and only you control. So is it a country? Is it a planet? Is it a building? Whatever, but when your stuff moves in, other people's stuff has to move out. So usually there's some kind of fighting or something that can go on. We've also combined that with area majority. So again, you have a building, a planet, a country, a territory, whatever it is, but multiple different players can have things in that area. And usually the ability of that area or the points for that area, the reward or whatever it is for that area is different depending on whether you have the majority in that area or not. Some games that even specify what the difference is, because there's two types of majority. There's the I have more than any other player, and then there's the concept where I have more than everybody else combined. So some games make distinctions about those. If you're thinking about area control, you've got a lot of the classic games like Diplomacy or Axis and Allies, or Risk, or basically any war game usually has got some hex space or something, and only one unit or whatever can be in there. When you talk about area majority, there's a lot of different other games. In fact, we're going to talk about mostly area majority games now, so we'll get into that. But yeah, all right, who's going to kick us off? Lloyd, why don't you tell us what is your favorite area control / area majority game?
My favorite area control, not area control, my favorite area majority game. I didn't think of it. I mean, I thought of it, but then I kind of forgot about it because I picked something else. But I'm going to pick it again because JJ reminded me before the video. And it's like one of my all-time favorite games, and it is Smash Up. And this is the game where you take 2 decks of cards with pop culture stuff. So you have like aliens and ninjas and pirates and zombies and robots. You take 2 of those decks, you smash them together. And then the whole point of the game is to take over bases that are out on the play area. And the bases are area, for the most part. There are some bases that only allow, I think, like one person on it. But there are bases that are area majority. Your cards have different values on them, and you are basically trying to control that base until it breaks by having the most points. You get points. It's usually handed out to the top 3 people on the base, but the game goes up to 4 players, so 4 people could go on the base. But it's typically first, second, and third, but sometimes having the most doesn't always get you the most points. Sometimes you want to be in second place or even in last place. But the whole point of the game is taking these 2 smashed up things that have 2 completely unique play styles. So like the aliens, their whole thing is they can bounce things back to their hand or to other players' hands. So they don't kill things or put it in the discard pile. They just put it back in your hand. And then like the zombies, those can play out of the graveyard. So you technically have 2 hands at that point. You have what's in your hand, and you're trying to get most of your zombies into your graveyard so you can play out of there. So everyone plays a little bit different. And the whole point is to just smash these 2 together, find broken combos, and try to break as many bases as you can and get the most points. I believe it's whoever's first to 15 wins. And they've got like 18 billion expansions. They have licensed ones, like they just put out a Disney one. They have a Munchkin crossover. They have a knockoff superhero one, but then they also have a Marvel one that I own now, even though I got rid of my giant big box, my big geeky box, because I couldn't get anybody to play it with me. But that is my top area majority game. That's just goofy and fun.
And all those expansions work together, right? You can combine all of them, IP or not IP or whatever, right?
I'm not sure if the Munchkin one can plug into everything.
Okay.
And also, technically, the Cthulhu one, you can play with everything. But if you're going to get Cthulhu, I think everyone needs to play with at least one Cthulhu faction. Otherwise, the player with the Cthulhu faction is probably going to lose because it introduces like this madness effect. And that just destroys your hand. It's essentially into like a deck builder where you get dead cards in your hand and you can't do anything. You get these madness cards and they're worth negative points at the end of the game. So I hated that. I bought it and then I just hated it. It was utter garbage.
Well, my favorite faction is sheep. JJ,
yes.
do you have a favorite combo or faction for Small?
I think all the
for
subscribers know. Yeah, for Smash Up. I played it once, and it was only because the expansion that I liked came into effect. And I think everybody knows it's the Power, whatever it is.
Big in Japan.
Power Rangers. Big in Japan. Well,
that's what it's called, yeah.
Yeah, but the team is not Power Rangers. It's like Power Warriors or something, how they call it. But yeah, so you got the Megazord, and I'm already in there. I think everybody knows that already.
Yeah. All right.
I liked it, so it's pretty good. It's a Smash Up is interesting because you do get to smash up those different things. And sometimes the combos don't work. So I kind of, so there's that whole thing. And of course, the person that knew the game or had the game was the one that won. I will not buy it myself, but I will play it if somebody has it just to see what kind of combos you can come up with.
Yeah, that's kind of the fun of it is the replayability and finding those combos.
Yeah, I will say that if you're not really deep into the game and you just get some random combo assigned to you and it's not that great, it's not the best experience. But it's still an interesting game. But you said you don't own it, so I'm going to assume it's not one of your picks, JJ. What have you got for us?
So I'm going to pick a game I do own, but I would like it even if I didn't own it. I had to buy it because I played it once and then nobody else had it. So I just had to buy it myself and it was on sale. So I believe I've talked about this game before. It's a little D&D world game that came out. I didn't even know what it was when I first talked about it because I'm not a D&D person. So I thought it was just a cool name. And the name is Tyrants of the Underdark. I don't know what the Underdark is. I don't know what these tyrants are. But I played the game and there's dragons and like zombies and vampires or whatever in there. I don't even know what it is. But Underdark is like the domain area underneath whatever D&D world it is. But it's pretty cool because it is one of the games that started out as a deck builder with a board, just like I think it came out just after Clank. So like everybody had just gotten to the whole hype of the deck builder with a board. And it is area control, area majority, kind of both. So in the smaller areas, there is only one place for somebody's little servant to go on. But once you get to the big areas, the cities of the Underdark, multiple people can have character in those cities. So if you have the majority, you control the area. And then if you completely take over the area, you have the control of the area. It's called total control. So I like that part in the game because you have both. So you're kind of fighting to have the majority. So you do get there's a little token that says you have control of it that gets you an extra buy money for your turn. But then if you have total control, you get the one buy and you get a victory point every round on your turn. So fighting for the total control is pretty good. And then there's only one character that doesn't actually go into a space, and that's the spy. Everybody has 5 spies. And then you can go in there to mess up somebody's total control. So that way they don't get the victory point, because getting one victory point in the game, well, minimum, because you can have, there's like 5 different big cities on there. So if you have total control over like 2 or 3 of those, you're kind of jumping up ahead because you're getting free victory points every turn and 3 money to buy. So you can buy the bigger cards. What is nice about this is when you're making the main deck for the game, as in any deck builder, you actually take 2 different races. So it's kind of like Smash Up, because you're taking like dragons and vampires and smashing that together. And that makes the main deck. And you can buy cards from both races. They don't really like work off each other, so to speak. So there's that part of it, because they don't really combo off each other that way. But they each race or whatever has a different ability kind of tied to it. Just like, I can't remember what race it is, but there's one race that gives you insane cards. So they're like dead cards in hand, and they give you negative points so you can't clog up somebody's hand. So you're just handing those out to people instead of like trying to take over areas to make them, to slow them down. and then hopefully you get something that lets you put out more servants or spies or whatever out onto the world, and then hopefully kill off or assassinate their servants or whatever they're called. So it's a great game, and also introduce the mechanism of you have victory points of cards in your hand, but if you send them off to the afterlife, take them completely out of the game, you can get double victory points for those cards. So you have to choose how often you want to use the card before you just remove it from your deck to get those extra victory points. So there's those two mechanisms that happen in there with a deck builder and a board. So it's area control, majority, and then also the secondary mechanic of trying to get more victory points. So I really like Tyrants of Underdark. I wish they would come out with more factions so you can just, keep putting out different kinds of mixtures in the deck. There was only been one. So there's 4 different half decks you can put together. So I'd like to see what all the combinations do. It would be nice if there's varied starter decks like they have in Hero Realms. So because D&Ds, you have all the different races. Why can't you make a dwarf starting deck or something like that? So there's a lot of things that they can do with this game. So they haven't done anything in a while, but if you do the deck builder with a board and you like fighting, that's one good game, and as far as I'm concerned. So Tyrants of the Underdark.
It's interesting. You guys have both talked about games where you sort of mash up two races or factions or whatever together. And I have a feeling that's not going to be the last we hear of that on this list either. But I was looking at, there are a lot of games that I like that use these mechanisms, and there are some recent games, but for whatever reason, for me, this is sort of a classic mechanism. So I went way back for both my picks. And this is no surprise for the people who say maybe watched my top 100 of all time. One of my favorite games of all time is Carcassonne. So Carcassonne is pretty simple. You draw a tile out of the bag, you place the tile, and then optionally you can put one of your meeples on the tile. And that's basically the whole game. And the scoring of it is when you put your meeple on that tile, it can be a thief on a road, or it can be a knight in a city, or it can be a farmer in a field, or it can be a monk in a monastery. If you put them down in a field, you're never going to get them back the whole rest of the game. All those other ones you can get back by scoring the feature and then use them again. But as far as area majority goes, this game is nasty, right? So if you are building a city, to a certain extent, it behooves you to close that city because you get double points for the spaces when the city's closed. So you want to close it before the end of the game, and you get your meeple back. But also, if you just keep building a big city that's going to score a lot of points, other people will start essentially trying to take over ownership of that city. And it's not as simple as all that, because you can't just place a tile next to somebody's city and put your meeple in their city. The rules say you can't do that. You can't put a meeple on a feature that already has meeples in it. So what you do is you put your tile right next to their city on a city feature, and you put a knight, and then on a future turn, you connected that tile into the other city by joining them with another tile, right? But in the meantime, somebody could separate, put some other tile there that separates those two cities. Or, you can just be mean to somebody and you can place a tile next to their city that makes it hard for them to complete their city. Because, they can only place in tiles that line up specifically. But longest road too, right, is a thing in the game. So if you're playing with that as an expansion, if you're trying to build a longer road, somebody's going to jump in there and try to get in on your road, maybe for the points, but also maybe to make sure you don't steal the longest road thing from them. Or somebody could just close your road off because they don't want you to take the longest road for them, right? And the most cutthroat thing in this game, I think, is the farmers, because the farms at the end of the game, which, by the way, now the farmers are a variant. They're not part of the base game. But in the original game, they were part of the base game. But the latest printings, they're just a variant. But those farmers were cutthroat. They're worth a lot of points. And so people are always trying to get one more farmer into a field. I'm going to put a farmer here, and then I'm going to connect it around here. And now those fields are joined. I'm going to share the points, or I'm going to steal the majority and take all those points. Yeah, the game's cutthroat, and it's really a game system at this point. There's all kinds of expansions to it that give a double meeple or points added for roads, or a thing that lets you score a field prematurely before the end of the game. And, so there's a lot of different stuff. But yeah, it is all the scoring is about basically area majority. You get, when that feature is finished, the person with the most meeples on that feature gets the points. And other than a monastery, I guess, but all the other ones, the roads, the fields, the cities, those are all area majority. And you don't have to play the game that way, but if you're playing the game to win, it is a cutthroat game. And it's a classic. It's from 2000, right? So I guess I can call it a classic now. It's 22 years old. And people still buy it, right? I mean, it's still an evergreen and they're still making, like I said, it's like a system now. They make tons of expansions for it. They make new versions of it, that are historical or based somewhere else and have slightly different rules or whatever. But Carcassonne, one of my favorite games of all time because it's super simple and it can be super cutthroat and can be super fun. So I guess I'll just roll right into my other pick too, since it's ancient. If that one's a classic, this one's ancient. Not really, but it's 5 years older than that. And this game actually, for a very long time, stayed at the top of the Board Game Geek charts, even though it's from 1995, which is pretty old at this point. And that is El Grande. So El Grande is entirely about area majority. You have to make a decision on your turn which card you're going to play. So it goes around and you play these cards that you have, and you can play the higher numbered card, which gives you preference in drafting one of the cards that has a special ability, but then gives you less of your caballeros to put out on the map. And putting caballeros out on the map is really how you get the points. So you need to get these caballeros, and then you need to get them out on the map. And and there are multiple scoring rounds during the game. So maybe 3 rounds in, it's going to score, and 3 more rounds in, it's going to score. So you want to have the majority in those areas to score the most points when those scoring rounds come around. So you can focus on specific areas, you can spread out to different areas, and some things actually even allow you to change the scoring in different regions. And there's this cool sort of king mechanism where you can move this king around, but in the king's territory, nothing can change. So if you move the king to, say, your territory, nobody else can put any stuff in there. So maybe you want to do that right before scoring. And I say your territory, so a territory where you have the majority, but also you have maybe it's called the Grande or something. You're a home castle out on the map somewhere, and it's worth extra points if you win that region. And then there's the thing called the Castillo, which is fun. Everybody can put their caballeros, their cubes, in there. And then when it comes to scoring, the Castillo is going to score, whoever had the most cubes in it. But then everybody secretly allocates what region their caballeros are going to paratroop into, essentially. So that can change everything else for the scoring. So you can score points for the Castillo, and then you score points for where all those things go. It's all the scoring is based around area majority, but it really does that mechanism. I mean, this is like the shining example of that mechanism, which is why people still play it and still really highly rated, even though it's 27 years old. So yeah, when I think of area majority, I think of El Grande. Have you guys played that one?
Nope.
I played it once a long time ago, just like it was right around the same time I played Carcassonne, very early in my gaming career. Carcassonne I played recently. El Grande I know I played. I did like it, but I don't remember how it plays.
Yeah, I thought you might like it because it is pretty cutthroat.
I like that.
That's your jam.
Is that the one with the big tower in the middle where you keep throwing stuff in there? You don't know what's... Yeah, okay.
That's the Castillo, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, I played it.
Yeah, it's sort of got that feeling of like, I know you like Mission Red Planet with the moon where you can paratroop those people down, right? Yes. So the Castillo is like that too.
Yeah. Paratroop or shoot a rocket.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's a classic, and so that's why I picked it. All right, let's move back around the circle, back in the reverse order. All right, so JJ, man, what do you got for your second pick?
Okay, so I have a judge's pick. They said it was okay.
Jeez.
Okay, so this is going to be great because we had a discussion before we started the video. It was very controversial, but I'm going to group in controversy. Engaged. I'm going to talk about a group of games, kind of, sort of, but I'm going to focus on the first one I'm going to talk about, Lords of Vegas. Okay, so everybody knows there's like casino type games where you gotta push your luck, you gotta gamble, and hopefully you win big. All right, so there's Lords of Vegas, there's like Acquired, Chinatown, and then there's another Vegas game with some dice or whatever. So what I like about these games is they usually have a deck with a coordinate on it. And you get to put your little marker, dice, building, or whatever it is on that marker when you play that card. Lords of Vegas, you're building up your casinos. hopefully you got the right color, because like 5 different colors you can make your casino. And if you have your little dice on the connected spaces orthogonally, you can build up your casino. Hopefully it can make you more money once your little thing hits, and then just like gambling. So you can put your dice on places that you don't have, and hopefully you'll get it later. All different kinds of gambling things. I'm going to lump these together because there's a lot of luck in here, and I don't like luck a little bit, but I do like the randomness. So it's like a love-hate type of thing going on. So it's a good party game because for some reason, every time I play these kind of games, everybody gets very excited about it. I guess like they won at slots or roulette or something, because it's based on casino, but it's like you're not playing with real money. But yet people get all, oh, you took my spot right in between my casinos. I was going to connect those together. But then there's like, okay, so there's a little bit of trading going on. You can go in and you can trade that little spot for somebody else's spot and move your dice around. Hopefully, you get more money that way. So there's a lot of gambling elements going on. I actually played this game one time, the first time I played this game, and I did win, but I still didn't like it. So, but I do get into the whole luck thing because I have a love-hate relationship with regular gambling as well. Texas Hold'em and, blackjack and all that stuff. I still like playing the games, but it's like, you can't, if you lose all your money, you can't play as long. So that's the part I don't like about gambling, because I want to play the game for like 2 hours, but if I lose all my money, I can't play anymore.
You don't like player elimination?
Yeah, I don't like player elimination. So this is part of the reason why I like Lords of Vegas, because everybody gets to play, but then there's that whole fact of if you're not getting your cards and none of, you got one of your dice like every 4 corners, nothing's combining. It's like you're kind of out of luck for the whole game. So that's what I don't like about it, because there's nothing really you can do if you don't have a space somebody wants. So it's like, But then, if you get a 2 or 3 grid casino and it's green, and all of a sudden the green hits and you just make all your money because you got lucky and you roll die and they're like 5s and 6s. And you're just making all kinds of money. It's like, ooh, I didn't really do anything. I just kind of rolled die, but I still won. So it's like, yeah, you feel good about it. The pure luck of it all. So I like it as far as like a party game. And then very easy to play. Everybody really gets into it for some reason. I like it more so because everybody else likes it. And then there's like a very fancy version that comes in like a big old wooden suitcase. So I like all the fancy chips and everything like that. So, I'm going to put it in there. Area control majority. So with a little luck in there. So that makes it a little bit better because you're getting area majority, but that doesn't mean you're going to win. So there's the love-hate relationship of the randomness of it all. And then hopefully you get what you want. And like acquire, that's another one. So, you're buying stocks and hopefully you bought the right stock and it hits, and then all the stuff. Yeah. So a lot of randomness going in there. I picked this game because as far as like pure luck randomness, I'd rather a casino game theme than anything else. So I will play it if it comes out. Just because
I like how that the casinos that are along the strip are worth more points.
That's a very viable area. So if anybody gets that randomly and it has a casino on the strip, like 2 or 3, you pretty much know you got to get them out of there. That's the only way you're going to win the game. So you try to tempt them out. I'd be like, here, I'll give you 3 of my cars for your 1 on the strip, just to get them away from there. So,
I have let all the other players fight over the spaces along the strip and just gathered up the stuff off the strip and won the game that way too, though, right? So there's
you can do that, but my point is you can't let one person do that. So if everybody else is fighting for it, then you can focus. You just make sure that somebody that's the Texas Hold'em part of it, because I'm trying to pit people against each other. You take all their chips, and then I come in and they're like, here you go, straight flush. I just take all your money. So that's the sneaky part of it all that I like.
So the moral of the story is, if you play a game with JJ, you need to attack him early and often.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally every game night where my non-gaming friends go. They attack me every single time. So I'm used to it.
They do that to me too. And I'm like, this is a co-op. What are you doing? I don't know.
They're still trying to fight you. Yeah, that's why I don't play co-ops, because they'll try to fight me anyways.
All right, cool. So, Lloyd, what have you got as your number 2?
So, this is a game that, so side tangent before I even go into it. I got this game as I had a really bad day and I rewarded myself with this game. So just rewind back when I was doing my Kickstarter, I was sending stuff out to different reviewers, and one of the boxes I needed to send to some guy in Canada, and I didn't know how to fill out the custom stuff. So I gave it I gave it to my son because I was at work, and I was like, "Hey, can you take this to the post office and just do whatever they tell you and pay and whatever?" So he takes it in. He calls me. He says, "Hey, I did it."
$700 later.
It's no. He goes, "They took it. It's gone." I go, "How much was it?" And he goes, "Nothing. They just took it." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, They didn't charge me any postage." I was like, "Did you tell them that you didn't know how to fill it out?" And he goes, "Yeah, they just took the whole thing as it is." I said, "But did they fill out the custom stuff?" And they're like, "No, they just took it." So I'm like, "Oh, it's my last copy of the game. I assume it's gone." But so I was having a really bad day. I was at Cool Stuff, and I was like, I'm going to buy this game. Long story short, it got there with no postage. It made it across the border with no trust. None of this stuff filled out, and the guy got it like 3 or 4 days later. That's our U.S. postal system. Anyway, so this was the game I bought.
Your son's a wizard.
Nobody cares what goes out. You just don't want anything in. So the walls are like the
but nobody in Canada stopped it either.
Yeah, that package is okay.
Coming from America, can't be that bad.
So this was the game I bought myself when my son told me that, and I figured my last copy of the game was in limbo and it wasn't going to make it to the reviewer in time. It was A Study in Emerald, 2nd edition. So this is. I'm going to try to do my best to describe this game. It is quite possibly one of the densest games I've ever attempted to play. And I've even played it with people who typically play these super dense games, and they didn't really get into it. It's Martin Wallace, if that tells you anything. But essentially, this is a Cthulhu-based game that is set in Sherlock Holmes time. Sherlock Holmes is in the game, so it's got all these public domain characters. It's mixed in with like real people and Sherlock Holmes characters, mixed with Cthulhu. That's the setting of the game. But what you're trying to do, there's 2 teams. There's the loyalists that are loyal to the elder gods, and there's the restorationists who are trying to fight against it. This game is a deck builder / area majority / there's some social deduction in there because you don't know who your team members are until they start doing stuff. And even then, you're not exactly sure because there's a weird scoring mechanism for how the points work. There's green points. There's pink points. Sorry. There's points for the loyalists, which are green. There's points for the restorationists, which are pink. And then there's generic points, which are just black. There's no color to them. So if you kill something that's Cthulhu based, an elder god, you get pink points. If you kill certain characters, you'll get green points. And the tracks kind of move up and down based on who did what. So if I kill someone and get 2 points, the track moves up 2 points. And then the next track will move up if someone gets some green points. So there's all this weird stuff going around. The deck building aspect of it is you basically draw a hand of cards. You have 5 cards. The cards have, up in the corner, they have these different symbols on them. The symbols are the different actions you can take. But you can only take 2 actions in a turn. And your actions are not taking a single card and playing it. Your actions are picking one of the symbols that's on the card, and then you can play as many of those cards as you want with that symbol, and that allows you to put influence down, buy other cards, kill people, kill the bad guys. So there's all this weird stuff with how the game works. So you have these different cities. It's basically, it's like, I think there's 8 cities, but it's basically just 4 spots and 4 spots on the board. You are trying to vie for control of those cities because that's where the decks are, where the cards you're going to buy. So whoever has the most influence there, using cubes and agents. So your agents give you the ability to actually like kill gods, kill the elder gods, and kill people. And then they count as influence as well. And then the cubes are just influence. So you combine those together to do different things. So if you want to kill a god, it basically comes out of the deck. It takes 5 to do it. So you need an assassinate card, which is one of the symbols on the card. You also need enough influence in the city in order to take over to overtake the bad guy that's there, the Cthulhu monster. And then whenever you kill it, all of your cubes that are there go to limbo, and anybody else that was in the town with you gets their cubes back. It's kind of hard to describe. The game can end in 3 different ways. If one of the pink or the yellow green track gets all the way up to 10, that ends the game immediately. If someone reaches, there's a different score. There's 2 different score tracks. There's the pink and green one that goes from 0 to 10, and then there's one in the middle that's your actual player points. If someone reaches the top player points for the amount of players, the game immediately ends. And if to throw it all in there, you also have madness that you have to, whenever you do certain things, you have to roll the madness die. If you ever lose all of your sanity and you flip over your card and you are a restorationist, the game immediately ends. If you're a loyalist, you get bonused because you're already insane, so you just get to do even more stuff if you flip it over. If that all sounded like a bunch of gobbledygook, it is. And a lot of people, like, trying to explain this game to people, even some people who play like nothing but super hard, crunchy, mathy Euros were like, I don't understand what's going on in this game, because there's a lot of different things to keep track of. And like I said, there is this social deduction aspect that you don't know who your teammates are. You can actually you can kill one of your teammates, which is bad. And then at the end of the game, you'll get negative points for killing. And then there's a fun mechanism at the end for scoring that whoever's in last place, whatever team they're on, everybody on that team also loses points based on them being the worst player in the game. So you could win the game and then somebody on your team is terrible and they could lose the game for you because you fall back behind the second place or third place person.
Yeah, you needed to help that person. Sure.
Oh my gosh.
You got to
I just realized right now I play a lot of board games because I played El Grande once. Can't even get the name right because I know I played La Grande too, so I can't remember this. But I did play City of Emerald one time, and like you said, it was muddled until halfway. I was like, oh, now I know what I'm doing. But then
Eventually
I realized, I realized I got to play this again before I forget. But then I forgot playing the game, so I definitely forgot how to play the rules. But I do remember, even after you explained it, I still don't remember any of that. But I do remember liking in the game when I played it. So I was like, I need to play this again. So I definitely want to play this again. And like you said, a lot of stuff going on, and I loved it all. I do like the fact it's not quite a deck builder because you don't play the cards. You have to get all the symbols. So I just focused on getting all the symbols that I wanted and got rid of the other ones. So great game. I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot I liked that game.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I played it with multiple groups and no one seemed to like it.
What?
And it sat on my shelf. And eventually I was just like, it's a hard to get game anyway. So I just sold it for the same price I bought it for as new at one of the
Isn't it out of print now too?
Probably.
Yeah,
I bought this. It was like 5 years ago or 6 years ago when I bought it.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to get right now. So that makes me very sad. But yeah, I gotta play that again.
Yeah,
great
I'm sure
game.
You can find it in the aftermarket. But yeah, it ticked a lot of boxes for me, and it's just sad that I couldn't find anybody to play it with. So
good. Right here.
Well, I don't have them anymore. I sold it like 3 years ago.
Well, I'll find somebody that wants to play it again. But yeah, I do remember some of the people didn't like it because it was too much. But I was like, this is perfect. Are you kidding me? This has everything. But
yeah, John and I were talking about this just the other day. How much you enjoy a game is sometimes affected by whether or not you just get it played or not. Just this is a better game because I can get it played and I enjoy playing it. This other game is also great, but I don't get to play it so much. So how great is it? I don't know.
Well, Smash Up was one of my top games, and I sold that because I had 10 of the expansions and never got it to the table anymore. But we played that game every day for a year at lunch with the same group. We knew all the decks inside and out, and all we did was mash up different things to try and come up with better things. But again, could never get it to the table. None of my other groups liked it, so it's just taking up space. Get rid of it.
Well, that's how it goes.
Sucks. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about the people's choices now. So the people had one pick that I'll get to in a second. That was their number one. There was a tie for second place, and the tie for second place was Carcassonne, which I've already talked about, but also Blood Rage.
Blood Rage.
So Blood Rage is themed on Norse mythology. You're going to have a leader and some warriors and a boat and then like You can have some cards that give you monsters or whatever. You're going to put these things out on the board, and you're going to try to pillage different areas. And pillaging these areas are going to move you up on these 3 different tracks you have. One track determines how many actions you have on a given round, whatever it's called, era, something, I don't know, turn. And another one is going to tell you how many points you get when you win combat. And then another one is going to tell you how many units you can have, how many different things you can have out on the board to sort of fight and control stuff. And, if you decide that you want to pillage a place and there's room, people will bring their stuff in and then they'll fight, and, units will die and they'll go to Valhalla and they'll get glory that way. But essentially you're trying to get glory points. So even when your units die, go to Valhalla, you get glory points, or you get glory points for winning a battle. But it is all centered around controlling these different areas. And there's several different areas. I can't remember how many, 5 or 6 around a central area, which is the Yggdrasil, the tree, whatever. And that one doesn't have any limit on the number of units that can be in there, the village spaces where you can put stuff out. So, and it borders every other territory. So when there's a fight starting there, anybody can come in and join that fight. So there is a lot of combat in this game, right? So it's definitely area majority, in that you want to dominate an area to pillage it to, win the fight and etc. But yeah, there is definitely a lot of combat in this game. It is a in your face game. What do you guys think of Blood Rage?
Lloyd, you want to go first?
I've only played it a couple of times. I played it once as research when I was trying to design a area control game, area majority game. And my biggest complaint is both times I played it, the people I played it with knew what they were doing. So they knew what they were drafting and they knew which cards they were looking for. And I just got smoked out of completely out. The second time or the third time I played it, we didn't even go past the first round because I just got destroyed on the first round. And the guy was like, I don't think there's any way you can even come back. So he's just going to be playing for the next hour and there's no way you can win.
You play 2-player?
No, there was 4 of us. Oh. But I lost my entire army on turn 1 and got 0 points for it. Like, I had a bad gamble off of the cards that I got. There was one strategy based on what I drafted. There was one strategy, and I went all in on that strategy. And somebody else had a similar strategy, and they just had overwhelming odds with a sea monster, and that was the end of my armies. But they played that sea monster like right on the last turn. And they're like, okay, fight. And I was like, great. Well, I guess I'm dead.
Yeah, so, there are some weird strategies in this game. There's that Loki strategy where if you have the right cards, you can use on purpose to win.
Yeah.
So I'm
but
terrible.
You do get a sea monster. There's opportunities for you to get a sea monster, a frost giant, fire giant, and you can get a Valkyrie and some goblins or something. So yeah, so that's why I like the game, because I like the Norse mythology. That's one of the best themes out there. And then, you can get all this different monsters out there and then upgrade your troops and get special abilities and try to take over an area and everything like that. But yes, there are ways to like smoke other people that don't know how to play. So I would play not as strong, but there's the drafting part of it. But yeah, sometimes you can just get bad cards and then you just sit there for the round because it's like, I can't put anybody out because I don't have any rage. So So upgrading stuff, it's good. But then, as far as the overall game, it's 50-50 gamble. But I like it for the most
first
part.
First time I played this, we played it wrong. And because when there's a combat, people can submit a card to sort of with a numeric value to augment the combat. And we
you
were
can submit any card.
Well, yeah, I mean we were discarding the cards that were submitted though, but you're supposed to keep the cards if you lose. Only the winner discards them. But we weren't doing that, so yeah, we actually played it wrong the first time. But that is a rule that probably should be emphasized a little more because it's not intuitive. You expect I played the thing, so I discarded it. But anyway, it's an interesting game, but it was not the people's number one choice. The people's number one choice I talked about. Well, you talked about smashing up, factions, races, or whatever. So the number one pick from the people, which is definitely an area control game, is Small World. So, Lloyd, do you want to tell us about Small World?
Sure, why not?
I don't know, whoever.
Small World was actually on my short list. I own one of them. I own the Underworld one, or Underground, but they're all basically the same. You have a central map that has a bunch of areas on it. And depending on how many people are playing, the areas are slightly different on both sides of the board. And there's a certain amount of rounds you play. The big kind of catch to the game is you have a race card. It'll be like the spiderlings or the flame people. I have the underground one, so there's like gnomes and dwarves and giants in the base game.
Elves
it's all like
and undead and vampires.
And then you have a power that gets paired with them, and it's all random. Like you put the little tiles together, and then they just come out into like a drafting row. And the ones on the bottom are the cheapest, and the further up they go, the more expensive they get. But every time somebody drafts one, they slide down and they get coins on them or whatever. The kind of the catch to the game is you're trying to take over different areas to have control. And at the end of each round, you will count up all the areas you control and you will get points. And you put the points in front of you. They're all face down, so no one knows exactly what everyone has. The way combat works is pretty simple. To go into an area, if there's nobody in there, you can just slide in a troop. Doesn't matter. If there's one troop in there, or there's like an obstacle, like a mountain or something, then basically you have to have one more troop than the troops that are in there. So if someone has 3 troops in there, you got to put in 4 troops. Whenever you take over an area, in that example, if I took over with my 4 troops, my troops go in, destroys their troops. They get a certain amount of those troops back. I don't know, is it 1 or is it based on how many they lost? They get a certain amount of the troops back.
Yeah.
So you have diminishing returns. Each round, you're going to then get those troops back. You're going to put your troops out and you're going to try to expand. That's where the second kind of mechanism of the game comes in with these different races, because you're not going to play with one race through the entire game. At a certain point, you need to decide to put your race in decline. And basically what that is you flip over your card. You no longer can move those guys around. They're just there. You still get points for any areas that you control with them. But on the beginning of your next round, you're going to go ahead and draft a new one, get a bunch more troops, depending on which race you take. Some of them have come with like a billion little troops, and some come with like 5 really big troops that count for extra, or they have a special power, whatever. So the game is this ebb and flow of trying to decide when is the best time to decline your race and get the next one, because you're trying to milk every last point you can out before you get to your next before you go for your next draft. The game's played over a certain amount of rounds based on
9
how many players there are.
Yeah.
Well, it goes up and down based on whether it's 3 or 4 or 2 or whatever.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, there's 2 different. The boards are double-sided, and
that's true.
At least the underground one is.
Yes, there are different player boards for different player counts. I didn't realize there's different rounds on there, but the number of spaces areas you can take over changes depending on number of players.
I'm pretty sure the round marker changes based on how many players are on that side. I think. Don't quote me on it. I think there is, but anyway, it's a set amount of rounds. The biggest thing I like about the game is the hidden points, because it takes a lot of games I don't like that deal with points. It's because the points are open information and people can just look around and say, you have 57 points, you have 37 points. I know I have to go after you. And I know that I'm going to try to eke out every last little point on my last turn. And then it becomes this giant math problem. And that drives me nuts in games. This one, you just have to kind of feel what people are doing, but all the coins are the same size, but you don't know if they're 1s, 5s, or 10s, whatever. They're all face down. And you just have to kind of guess based on how the game was played and what people did. I mean, I guess if you're like Rain Man, you can probably know exactly what everybody has, but I always like it when it's like, oh, we're going after this guy. And it turns out at the end of the game, he only had like 10 points. And the guy that you weren't paying attention to had like 8,000 and no one paid attention. So, but that is Small World. And there's a cool thing with, and I don't know if they all connect up, but they sell these little separate expansions that allow you to connect different games together. So the main game can connect to the underground. And then you can go in between worlds, so it makes your board even bigger, I guess. I've never done that, but it might increase the player count too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it goes up to like 6 now. And then you can connect, except for the one that has the modular boards, which I like as well, because then you can change the world. I think that was the Spider one or the Islands, one of those expansions. But yeah, so you guys were talking about earlier about games that you can never get to play. I bought the original Small World years and years ago, and I've played it like twice. I'm not getting rid of it though, because I do like it, but my friends group didn't like it because it's too simple. And I was like, that's the whole point of the game. Just play it real quick, and then you have all the different races. So I haven't even seen all the different races that I can play in there. But
it's not
it does
quick though, right?
If you play with people that know how to play, it's pretty quick because it's just like, all right, here, take the digit, and then it's your turn, and it's like, that's what I like it because it's only 9 rounds, I think, at the most, because I've only played it with the maximum amount of people. But then deciding when you want to go to decline is really bad because that whole turn, it's all in decline, and then you have to wait till the next turn. So if you do it on like turn 7, it's like you're only going to have that new race for like a round, maybe. Yeah. So I like the fact that you have to like decide. I think the most you can do right now, as far as what I've seen, is you can go into decline twice before the game's over to kind of maximize. But I've only played it twice.
Depends. Yeah, the reason why it's kind of fast is because it's like Risk. 90% of Risk is rolling the dice and you can battle again and again and again. This is just like, I have 5 guys, you have 4, I'm coming in. As long as I have my 5 guys and I have one more than you, I win.
And you forgot.
I was going to say, the only time you roll the die is if you don't have enough to take over and you're like 1 or 2 short, you can roll the die. And
it has to be your last one.
Yeah, your last attack. Yeah, you can roll the die, and if you get lucky, you can get in. If not, you just stay in your territory and you don't get. But that's the only die roll you get. So it's max 1 per turn per player. So and it's not a bunch. It's you roll it once and you resolve it, and that's it.
Yeah, the hardest part is like dealing out your troops, trying to figure out who's going to come after your area. So you want to build up, but that's really the only time that takes a lot of time, and then giving out the points at the end of the round. But other than that, it's like I do like the fact there's not a die roll every time you want to take something over. It's like. So that's what got me. And you forgot about the special expansion, the Disney one, where you get in the boat and you go around the world and everybody sings the song.
No.
The small world. That's what I said. It's a trip and the world is all around. There you go.
They do have the Small World of Warcraft, though. They did make that expansion.
Yes, they did. I have not been able to play that. I'm very excited about that. That's a good one. I don't know if the only reason why I didn't get it is because I don't know if it matches up with the rest of you can combine all the things together.
I don't know.
But yeah, if you want to get it played, there's a pretty good mobile app for the game. So you just play it on your phone.
That's true.
Give that a shot.
But I like seeing I need my point tiles. I like seeing it all there. And it's like, you got everybody's different things and you got all the different tokens out there, mountains and everything. So yeah, I really like it because it's so simple, but there's so much replay value because you can take the races and switch all the powers up. It's all random how it comes out.
Yeah. And some are obviously better than others, but they're, I mean, it's not like you randomly get assigned them, right? You've got to pay to get them.
No, it's random. There's the buy area where you can see what race went with what power, but when you're putting them out there, it's random. So you got to look. I like the fact they get you a big old cheat sheet too. Not a lot of games have a big reference sheet. And it's like, why doesn't every game do this? It's like this big and it shows you what all races do and what all the powers are. Just do that for every game. Okay. Anyways, that's my little rant there. I just don't understand it when.
All right. Well, that is area control and area majority. 2 picks from each of us and then 3 from the people. We had a little bit of crossover going on. So
Great choice, people.
Yes, very good. Very good, people. Anyway, if you like these videos, particularly these Gaming Through Mechanisms videos, hit that subscribe button because we're going to be putting out more of these. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. That does help us out. Come on over to our Discord. That's where, between Discord and Facebook, is where we run these polls so you can vote in the People's Choice. You can follow us on social media if you want. All those links I'm talking about are in the description of the video. But until next time, I'm Steven. That's JJ. That's Lloyd. We're from Just Got Played. And thanks for joining us.